Friends, it's Sherry, the homespun wife, and I'm sorry that I have missed you for the last week. I haven't been able to get a lot of videos up. It has been an extremely busy time. Not only did I work some last week, but our church had 3 funerals, and it was very difficult for us to experience. The last 2 funerals were back to back. One was a man in our church who was 53 years old, and the other was a young mother who was 40. And so they were very tough funerals to do, emotional times for our church family, and I just wasn't able to get to you. But I'm here today to share a positive word with you and to let you know how much I appreciate each one of you who is subscribing to my channel and all the little messages and comments that I'm getting. I just thank you from the bottom of my heart. You just do not know how wonderful it is to know you can be gone for a number of days and still have people subscribing and still have comments from friends, and I appreciate that. Now, the word I want to come to you with today is out of Psalm 120, and it's verse 1, and it says, I took my troubles to the Lord. I cried out to him, and he answered my prayer. And we know that when we cry out to the Lord with any problem that we're having, he is there for us, and he cares for us so much. But one of the things that has me a little troubled is when I hear from a friend who says that she is despondent or overwhelmed and cannot feel better. And friends, I want you to know that if you are feeling that way on a consistent basis, then please do not wait, but go straight to your doctor and talk to your doctor about this, because it is so important to do. A lot of people feel like if they have depression or they are diagnosed with depression, that in some way they are a failure in their faith, and that is not true. And I'm going to be very open and honest with you, which has always been my policy in life. And that is to tell you that I have suffered from clinical depression and had to be treated for it. And it is not easy to talk about. I have noticed that a lot of people who have this problem whisper and I noticed myself doing this a time or two, saying, "Oh, I take antidepressants," or something like that. And it's terrible that we have to be ashamed of these things, because when we have depression, we are experiencing a chemical imbalance that needs assistance through medicine. And sometimes we need to continue on and have assistance from a psychologist, a counselor. These things are okay, very common to experience this. I have not received psychiatric or psychological assistance, but I have been on antidepressants before. And so I want you to know that you are not alone. And when someone writes to me, and I do get messages from time to time from people who are experiencing great distress, and they're praying and they're crying and seeking God's face, and they don't understand why they feel so overwhelmed. And I just want you to know, if you are feeling overwhelmed, go to your doctor and ask him to assist you. There is nothing wrong with that. The first time that I was on antidepressants is when our oldest son graduated high school and disappeared for a number of days. I haven't talked about this very much with you because it's an emotional thing for me to still talk about. But I share it because I want you to know that all of us have difficulties and challenges in our lives, and there are times when we feel overwhelmed with things. And our oldest son, throughout his senior year of high school, experienced some trials. He had been just an excellent child, a brilliant child, and always been an obedient child. But during his senior year of high school, he started experimenting with some things, and we found out about this with some prescription medications. He was getting some samples and trying them, and some other drugs. And in all of our attempts to help him, it was just met with resistance. And so when he disappeared right after he graduated high school, we were terrified. We just truly did not know what to do. And we were even told by law enforcement that after they had researched his background and his cell phone, they were very concerned that they would find him alive. And so they told us to prepare for the fact that he may not be found alive. And that was a shock to all of us in our family. We had never been through anything like that before. And I did cry out to God, and I had been crying out to God, but I still felt overwhelmed. And it was during that time that I sought the help of my physician. And he was a wonderful man who was very compassionate. I didn't realize how much this whole situation had traumatized me until I went in to talk to him about some health issues I was having, some physical pain due to my rheumatoid arthritis. And I just burst out into tears. I really felt so embarrassed. I lost total control of my emotions up on the examining table. And he came over and put his arm around me. And I began to tell him what we were going through. We did eventually find our son. He was alive. He was not well, but it took many years for him to get well. And there was a lot of tough love that had to be gone through in order for us to get to a good place. But God was faithful to us. And during that time, I experienced enormous depression. And so I was told by this doctor, you need to go on antidepressants and they will help you. It will not be a miracle cure. It will not give you a rush or a high, but over time you will see that your mood is lifted and you will be able to handle things better during this time. And so I went on antidepressants at that point for 18 months. And I really didn't want to be on them that long, but they did help me. And when I finally got to a good place, I gradually came off of them, and so I was only on them that time for about 18 months. The coming off of them was pretty hard, but not terrible. I hadn't been on them that long, but I did have some side effects, and we still had a lot of troubles going on with our son. So during the next couple of years, we experienced another difficult trial with our younger son, who went into the Air Force and did very well. And once he arrived to his permanent post, after a number of months, he had a complete breakdown. And it was just so challenging to have a second troubling experience like this back to back with what we were already going through with our older son. And so our son eventually was discharged with he was given a medical disability discharge. It was honorable discharge, but it was for medical purposes. And he now receives some disability from the Air Force. And he has come through that trial, but he still has some difficulties, and he is still overseen by the VA. But during that time, once again, I felt just the sudden crash of my heart, my dreams, and my doctor told me at that time, he said, Sherry, you really should not have come off the antidepressants when you did. You were only on them for 18 months. That's not really a long period of time. You probably should not have come off of them. Now you hear my phone ringing in the background, so sorry. We never really use our house phone, so I know that whoever is calling, it's not going to be that important. But I went on antidepressants a second time, and this time I did stay on them for a long time. I stayed on the antidepressants, I guess, about 8 years, and 7 to 8 years, and that is a long time. And a number of months ago, I decided that, you know what, these antidepressants really aren't effective anymore, and I would like to get off this medication. I do not want to take medication if I don't really need to have it. And so I began the journey of coming off antidepressants. I did not do it gradually this time. This time I went cold turkey. It's not always recommended that you do that, but because I had been taking a small dose over a long period of time, I thought that I could probably handle it, and it has been very difficult. I'm not going to lie about it. It has been difficult. The initial symptoms are dizziness, heart palpitations, foggy headedness. I could not always collect my thoughts to speak coherently. And I filmed throughout the entire process that I was going through this. And so maybe you noticed that sometimes I didn't always seem exactly like myself, but I was trying my best to just rely on the Lord and get off of this medication. And now that I am several months out from stopping it, I'm finally beginning to feel like myself, my real self. The second month that I was off the antidepressants, I think that was the worst. Sleeplessness, I had stomach upset. I felt like I almost had the flu. I had panic attacks. And I've never had panic attacks before. They were not full-fledged massive panic attacks. I have been around people who have had panic attacks, so I'm familiar with them, and I have seen how severe they can be. I've seen people, pull off the side of the road and lay down in a ditch because their panic attack is so severe. I didn't have anything like that, but at nighttime when I would lay my head down to go to sleep, I almost wouldn't be able to breathe. I felt like I was suffocating, and I spent many nights fully awake, and that was tough. I mean, those were some tough days, but God has seen me through, and I really feel like I'm coming beyond that. I don't have that. I'm trying to remember the last time I had one of those types of issues. Towards the end of that experience, when I would feel that way, I would be able to lay in bed long enough for that experience to pass. It might last about 60 seconds and then it would pass. And I rarely feel that now. So I think that I'm really coming through. I did this with the help of my doctor. I have a new physician. My other physician moved away, and she is a young woman who told me that my symptoms could last up to 6 months, but that most of them should be resolved within 3 months. And so she was right. And she told me that all of the things that I was going through, that it was all normal. And one of the great things about getting off of the antidepressants is my blood pressure has been coming down. And that is one of the goals that I had hoped to achieve in getting off the antidepressants. So I want you to know that whether you are needing to get on the antidepressants or get off of them, I want you to do what is best for you, for your health, and for your well-being. And I want you to know that your faith is not failing you when you have clinical depression. When you are depressed, you have a chemical imbalance, and you are probably going to need some medication to help you through that time. And God has blessed us with wonderful medical care, doctors who study and make this their life's work. And I would say try your best to go for a little while without taking the antidepressants if you can. But if you find that you are overwhelmed quite a bit and you are feeling weepy a lot and losing control of your emotions a lot, then I say go to your doctor and let him know how you're feeling, and under the care of a physician, follow their leadership and advice through prayer on what you should do about taking medication. And I do not want you to feel any shame for taking medication. And I also want to encourage you, if you are taking it and you want to get off of it, that there is hope for you. If you want to get off of your antidepressants, it is possible. And while you may go through some tough experiences in the beginning, you will come through them. And you have to remember, as my mama always said, this too shall pass. It doesn't last forever. So that is my little talk I wanted to share with you today about antidepressants. Taking the shame away from having depression and understanding that so many people have this. You would really be surprised. If the truth were told, you would be surprised at how many folks maybe don't talk about it, don't mention it, but they experience it. You are not alone. God loves you and cares for you. And you know what? I love you and care for you, and I want you to be well, and I want you to be whole, and know that you are loved. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day, friends. It's been great to spend time with you, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye.